Frequently asked questions. You know, I never imagined when I started doing videos that I would gain an audience, which I guess that sounds silly because why do videos unless you want to gain an audience? But for me, when I was going on my research journey for treatment options to heal my fistula, when I found people to contact, they were people who'd had their fistulas healed for years. And I just always imagined that people would contact me years down the line. Maybe they'd stumble on my videos somehow and want to talk to me. I never imagined that I would be helping people out as I'm still on my healing journey. So I decided to do a frequently asked questions video because I'm finding that a lot of people are messaging me or emailing me and they would like questions answered that I've kind of already answered in my videos, but I understand because you would have to watch through all of my videos in order to get maybe the questions answered that they want answered. And, you know, maybe somebody doesn't want to do the digging or it's too long. So anyway, I thought to do a frequently asked questions video just for a quick, easy reference in case anybody had any questions that they wanted answered quickly. Pretty sure I'm going to miss some things, and I'm imagining this won't be my first frequently asked questions video, but here's my first shot at it. I should insert, as I'm going to answer these FAQ frequently asked questions, that this is just my experience. Lots of different doctors in India who practice Kshar Sutra do things differently, so they might have different recommendations. I would say follow whatever treatment method your specific doctor has given you. These are just the treatment methods and the journey that I've gone on. I went to Pune, India to see Dr. Bapat. This is his treatment method, and this is the aftercare instructions that he has given me and what I experienced. So if you talk to somebody else who went with a different doctor, they may very well have different advice. I was asked quite a bit, how did I learn about Kshar Sutra treatment, which is kind of an interesting question for me because I am a huge information junkie and I'm a librarian by trade. So basically, when I discovered that I had a fistula, I researched as much as I could. I learned about as much as I could about the gastrointestinal system, about fistulas, and different surgical methods. And because I was so worried about the surgical methods that are offered in Canada, I started researching alternative methods, and that's when I discovered Kshar Sutra. So basically, I hit Google and I hit YouTube, and I just typed in treatments for fistulas. How did I find my doctor? Well, basically, in my opinion, if you start researching Kshar Sutra, he'll find Dr. Bapat pretty much anywhere. He's definitely has posted in many forums that talk about fistulas, and, you know, at first I was kind of like, what's up with this person? I see them everywhere, and then I came to learn after meeting him and after talking to patients that he has healed, that he's very, very passionate about fistulas, about spreading the word about Kshar Sutra treatment, because usually, I think they tend to see North Americans, if a North American is going to come to them, or if somebody from outside the country of India is going to come to them, the people that they see are people who have had many surgeries and many failed surgeries, and so he has heard a lot of stories from a lot of clients about the surgeries that they've had and that they failed and that the pain and suffering that they've had to go through, and he knows he's been practicing Kshar Sutra for 17 years, 18 years, so he's heard a lot of stories, and he knows that Kshar Sutra, at least as far as his treatment method is concerned, because different doctors do different treatment methods, his treatment is very, very minimally invasive. There's really not a whole lot of pain, especially considering what's going on, and this is coming from somebody with a very low pain tolerance. So I think because he's such a genuine, passionate person about his career, and also he really genuinely wants to help people, just knowing that there's so many people out there suffering with something that can be so easily fixed with Kshar Sutra, I think that was his driving force for being all over the place. As far as answering questions about fistulas on the internet and in different forums. So basically, I found him because he had a really great web presence. So I was quite skeptical when I saw the Dr. Bapat around on the internet, just because I got by that point in my researching for a Kshar Sutra doctor phase, I was just very, very cautious because I'd had multiple surgeries in my anal area, and I didn't want to have to go through that again. It can be horrifically painful, and my surgeries were very, very painful. So I saw his website and looked through that thoroughly. I saw his YouTube page, and he posted testimonials of previous clients, and I thought that they looked great, but I was a bit skeptical because it just seemed like, how come it's so easy for Kshar Sutra doctors to heal fistulas but not for doctors back in Canada? Why did it seem like none of my doctors that I was dealing with, none of my medical professionals at all, nurses, anything, had even heard about Kshar Sutra? So even though I believed in the treatment method, I was worried about the doctor. But my doctor had, on his Facebook page for his clinic, he had posted pictures of him standing with clients who he had cured, and some of those people were people that I'd watched their testimonial videos, and he tagged them. And so I went and looked on their Facebook pages and saw that they were real people. I contacted them. I chatted with multiple people through Skype, through email, on the phone, and they were just so genuine and legitimate, and everybody basically was saying the same thing. And for a researcher, we always say that the hallmark of truth in anything is that somebody's telling you something, or you're finding information that the information gets repeated over and over and over again. And with Dr. Bapat, the information was repeated over and over again, being that he was an amazing doctor. They had had their fistulas, a lot of them had multiple surgeries where they were from, didn't work, went to go see Dr. Bapat, and he managed to cure them with just the one treatment. And not only was he an amazing doctor, he was also a very genuine, kind, caring individual. They just really seemed to love him as a person. So with that, I contacted him, and he got right back to me, and it was a done deal. What is Dr. Bapat like? In my experience, he was an amazing guy. He's very, very knowledgeable. He's very, very passionate about healing people and about the disease of healing fistulas. He was extremely funny, super, super interesting, very down to earth. I absolutely enjoyed my visits with him just because I really liked chatting with him, which I've never ever wanted to go to a doctor visit before and sit there and chat with my doctor. What are his credentials? He has an MD and a degree in I'm going to butcher the word, in Ayurvedic medicine. So if anybody's worried, and I think some people that talk to me were, he's not like just some guy on the street who decided, hey, let's try Kshar Sutra treatment. That's not him at all. He studied under somebody. He went to school to become formally educated. He has an MD, and he runs 2 clinics, and he has been healing people for the past 17, 18 years. So lots of experience, lots of education, and lots of practical experience to go along with the education. I forgot to mention in my last video about the Kshar Sutra success rates. I'm asked that all the time. How successful is Kshar Sutra surgery? And according to my research, it's in the high 90s, so 97 to 98% accurate, as far as my research is concerned, and the recurrence rates are so low that it's negligible. What type of fistula did I have? I had a fistula that was what they call a high complicated fistula, front facing, so my fistula was located between my vagina and my anus, and it was on kind of at the rear part of one of my labia, and it went through both sphincter muscles. How long did I have my fistula for? I had my fistula for about 8 months, and it was as a result of an abscess drainage. How long was my fistula? My fistula, I think it was 3 or 4 centimeters. I'm pretty sure. How quickly we forget. I'm pretty sure my fistula was about 4 centimeters long. And with that said, the diameter of my fistula was bigger than average. Lots of people, it seems like they have pinhole fistulas or fistulas that don't leak feces. My abscess in my rectum was really, really big by the time the doctors discovered it. It took them 6 weeks to discover it. When my surgeon in Canada went to examine my abscess in my rectum, he was just trying to examine the area, and he said he put his finger right through it. And he was just absolutely shocked. He said he'd never seen that happen before in his entire career. So right from the get-go, the hole in my rectum was really big. And of course that healed up over time. I developed a fistula, but the diameter of my fistula was always bigger than the average person. Does Kshar Sutra work on people with Crohn's disease? Yes. Kshar Sutra works on people with Crohn's disease, diabetes, ulcerative colitis. Can you have Kshar Sutra surgery if you've had multiple surgeries that have failed? Yes, you can. If you've had fistulotomy, fistulectomy, advanced flap, lift, you can still have Kshar Sutra surgery even if you've had surgeries such as those that have failed. And I've talked to people who've had multiple conventional surgeries that failed, and they were still able to have Kshar Sutra surgery and it worked. Can you have Kshar Sutra if you have an ostomy? Yes, you can. Can you hold in farts? Yes, I can. It seems like I have to concentrate to hold them in, but I'm pretty sure I had to make an effort to hold them in before as well. If I'm moving around, they seem to maybe slip out a bit more easily than if I were sitting or absolutely standing somewhere concentrating on holding them in. But I'm not incontinent to wind after Kshar Sutra treatment. I'm not incontinent to stool. And I think, yeah, that's it. I can hold everything in. Where did you stay when you went to Pune, India? I stayed at a hotel called the JW Marriott. It is a 5-star luxury hotel. Anybody can certainly do a trip to Pune for a lot cheaper than that. I learned when we got there that there's another Marriott in Pune called the Courtyard Marriott, and I think that the Courtyard Marriott might be less expensive than the JW Marriott. So if you're interested, certainly look into both locations, look into other hotels. You can rent apartments through Airbnb. It all depends on your comfort level. How much did our stay at the JW Marriott cost? We stayed for about 6.5 to 7 weeks. And since we were there for so long, the JW Marriott offered us what they call a long stay package, which was a discounted rate off of their rooms. And we got free continental breakfast every day. And we got a 15% discount at all of the restaurants. So when I quote this price, keep in mind that it was all of our water, all of our drinks, all of our room stay, and all of the food that we ate. I was too nervous to eat anywhere else in Pune just because I didn't know the area and I was getting surgery in my anal area. I didn't need to upset things, so that's why we ate at the JW Marriott. It cost roughly, I would say it cost us roughly about $4,000 a month Canadian for all of our drinks, for all of our food, and for the hotel stay itself. And with that said, I wasn't shy, especially towards the end when we were celebrating, about having wine with a meal, or I think I treated myself to a spa treatment, massage, something like that towards the end of our stay. So it was pricey, but I chose to stay there because I wanted the security, wanted reliable source of clean food, water, and help with the culture and language barrier that I figured that I would experience while I was there. And if anybody is interested in looking into the JW Marriott, or if you have Crohn's disease or an autoimmune disease, you should know that the water at the JW Marriott is filtered. So it's, as far as I know, it's safe to drink the ice, it's safe to use the water from the shower on an open wound. I experienced no issues with any of that. What was treatment like is a question that I've been asked, and that would depend on any number of factors and on the individual. Does your body heal more quickly or slowly just naturally? if you have an underlying disease such as Crohn's disease or diabetes that could impede the healing process and slow things down. Depends on how long your fistula is. It depends on the complexity of your fistula. If you have a horseshoe fistula, do you have a fistula with multiple sinuses or blind openings? With Dr. Bapat's treatment, your first appointment is to get the Kshar Sutra thread inserted, and I think that takes a little bit longer. Not that it's long. My treatments took no more than 15 minutes maximum. But the first treatment is a little bit longer than the successive treatments. After you have your Kshar Sutra thread inserted, then you go once a week after that to see him, and he'll change the thread. And other than that, the rest of the week is yours to wander around Pune and see and do whatever it is that they have available and that you would like to see and do. So basically, Dr. Bapat's treatment cuts through a fistula at a rate of roughly around 1 centimeter a week, generally speaking. And when the track has been cut through, there is no more fistula. Now it's an open wound. He typically wants clients to stay for another week so we can assess wound healing, and then you can go home. I think some people are a little bit nervous about going back to whatever their country is after treatment. I would certainly talk to him about that. If you're able to afford an additional stay in Pune, I'm sure he would be open to assessing the wound healing as time goes on if you want to stay. A lot of people can't get that much time off of work or they need to return home. One great thing about him is that he's very, very easy to be in touch with. So you can give him a call, you can give him an email, you can talk to him on WhatsApp. And so you can contact him very easily through those methods. And he recommended that I contact him two times. He recommended that I contact him once every other week just to give him updates on my wound healing. So I certainly don't feel like I am back in Canada and I've been abandoned by my doctor in India. He's very, very much in touch. Great guy. If anything seems to be going a little bit off or I have questions about anything at all as far as my wound healing, I can just contact him and he'll get right back to me. So that's pretty much it. After wound healing, you most likely could choose to stay in Pune, India if you want. Run that by him. If you choose to go with Dr. Bapat, I can't speak for any other doctors because I've only had experience with that one doctor. But if you choose to go back home, if you live outside of India or farther away from Pune, then you can easily contact him and just give him updates, which he would like to know anyway, and he will say what he thinks as far as should you continue with the aftercare or not, or how to keep the anal area clean, or answer any questions that you might have. People have been concerned about what will happen to them if they go to India and they're doing Kshar Sutra treatment and something happens to go wrong or they have any concerns. And I can only speak for my experience with my doctor. He was very, very easy to be in touch with. He highly encouraged it. I definitely felt when I was a patient of his like I was a priority. I never felt like if anything went wrong, I would have any problems at all getting in touch with him. And even if I had minor questions about things that were going on, it was absolutely nothing for me to give him a message on WhatsApp, or I could have given him a phone call if I wanted to, and he would have got back to me as soon as possible. So I thought his communication skills were wonderful, and hopefully that set somebody's mind at ease. How did I know that my doctor was legitimate? Well, basically because like most North Americans, I was very skeptical. You know, we have colorectal surgeons in many countries. I'll just stick with Canada because that's where I'm from. We have many colorectal surgeons in Canada, highly educated people, and it seems like if you have a high complicated fistula, that's something that a lot of surgeons don't want to touch. In fact, my first surgeon that drained my abscess, once I developed a fistula, he said, and I quote, "Oh, I'm not touching you again." So unless you specialize in this field, I think it's something that you can really easily damage somebody for life with if you don't know what you're doing. What did I have to do after my Kshar Sutra treatment was completed? It's another question. And basically what you have to do is get cotton, wrap it around your finger, and then let's pretend this is your anus. You put your finger in, oops, put your finger in the area, and then Dr. Bapat says scratch, but it's just kind of like you hook your finger down and just give it a little rub, I suppose. Make sure that there's no more stool in the wound after a BM if you've had a bowel movement. Then you take iodine on a cotton ball, soak that in there, and then do the same motion. The iodine is there to kill any microbes that might be lurking in the wound. And then take cream. He recommends iodine cream or something that's pretty much, I think, antibacterial, and rub that in the area. You're supposed to do that two times a day, and do that for 2 weeks, and then assess how things are going. I've been asked quite a bit how long treatment takes, and I think I've addressed some of that before, but that's very, very, very difficult to say because it really depends on the individual. I will tell you how long my treatment took. Anybody else's can take longer or shorter. And with that said, I would recommend that anybody, regardless of which doctor you go to, that if you're coming from out of country, make sure to book a one-way ticket, because even if your doctor quotes you a certain time frame, you can't really be sure, in my opinion, if your wound is going to heal faster or slower. My treatment took roughly about 6 weeks. I had 5 thread changes, and then I stayed for 1 extra week so that the doctor could assess wound healing. He thought things looked great, I felt great, so then I was clear and free to go home. I finished treatment, and how do I know that the fistula is gone? Several things. My fistula, from the very, very first moment it was created through an abscess drainage, always leaked feces. There's no more feces leaking. There's no hole that I can see anywhere at all. My lymph node in my groin, which would always swell up when there was infection, has gone down completely, and that had been swollen up for a year to varying degrees of excruciatingly painful to it was just felt big and hard. That's completely gone away. And I can feel the area, because I'm still right now in the stages of the wound healing. I can feel the area just filling in with tissue, and I know how that feels because it's itchy. How long is aftercare? I think that depends on the individual. My doctor recommended 2 weeks of cleaning the area twice a day with the iodine and with the cotton. I chose to do an extra week because I'm paranoid. I will do absolutely anything to make sure that this wound heals up properly and that I never develop a fistula again, but I think that 2 weeks is sufficient. How long does it take to completely heal? I think that's individual, and also it depends on, do you have underlying health conditions? Because if you have diabetes or Crohn's disease, I'm imagining it will take longer than a person who didn't have those health conditions to heal up. My wound right now is still in the process of healing. My doctor thinks it'll be healed up completely by January. I'm thinking I'm probably on track because I'm pretty sure I'm on the tail end of things right now. But when you're done treatment with Dr. Bapat, you're not 100% healed. You still have a wound that you have to take care of, make sure it's as clean as possible. And that will take a few months, I would say, to heal. So 1.5, 2 months is my non-expert, non-medical professional advice. I would ask that question to anybody who you choose to go with. As far as a Kshar Sutra doctor, they can let you know what they think, and I would think that would be the most reliable answer. But for me, I would say after treatment until when am I going to be fully healed, I would say it'd probably take about 2 months. Can you travel during Kshar Sutra treatment? Again, I'm going to just go with Dr. Bapat's method. Yes, with his method, you have your Kshar Sutra thread placed, and then a week later, he will switch the threads out, and he will continue to do that for as long as it takes for the Kshar Sutra threads to cut through the fistula tract. But you only need to visit him during treatment day, and other than that, you can travel anywhere that you want. There's no real restrictions as long as you're able to get back to your appointment within a week and see him again. I was asked Today if I could have worked during Kshar Sutra treatment, and the answer is yes. If Kshar Sutra treatment had been available in Canada, I would not have had to take off anywhere near the time that I did. I most likely would have chosen to take off treatment day. For me, treatment day was a day that I chose to stay in bed. The next day, I was up kind of toddling around, and by day 3, I pretty much felt fine. So, in my opinion, depending on your pain tolerance, depending on which doctor you go to, and which treatment method that person chooses to use, you should be able to work during Kshar Sutra treatment. Keep in mind you might want to take treatment day off. Did I need to take additional time off of work after I had Kshar Sutra treatment? You know, if we were lucky enough to have the option of having Kshar Sutra in Canada, I would have had to take very little time off. Treatments took 6 weeks for me, and I could have still gone to work. I probably would have chosen to take a treatment day off, but I would not have really had to take time off while I was in treatment. When we came home from India, I made the choice to take an extra week off because there was a 9.5 hour time difference. And if you've ever flown a far, far distance in a short period of time, you know that the jet lag can be awful. So came back, we couldn't sleep when we needed to, we couldn't eat when we needed to. Our bodies just went haywire. I anticipated that, and so I took the extra week off of work. But with that ramble aside, I don't think that you need to take any additional time off of work once you get home, provided that you're not going to be horrifically slammed with jet lag or anything like that. I would recommend that you maybe take if you have a time zone difference that is substantial, that maybe you book an extra week off of work. One thing to consider, I was very unlucky on my way back home in that I got stuck sitting next to a person who was sick, and I got a cold from her and gave that to my husband, and we were both sick for a few days, so I was grateful to have the extra week off because of that. But after the week, I felt fine. My body had reacclimated to the local time zone, and I was ready and willing to go back to work. Well, I really missed India, so I don't know if I was willing to go back to work, but I don't think that you need to take any substantial amount of time off of work when you come back home. That's up to your individual choice. But for me, I could have very easily, if it wasn't for the jet lag, I could have very easily went back to work the next day and not had any problems. There was certainly no problems as far as my bum was concerned. Did I get sick while I was in India? No, I did not. So it was very ironic that after we left India and we were traveling home, I got stuck sitting next to somebody who had a horrific cold and was coughing everywhere, and I got sick from that. But I never got food poisoning while I was in India. I was very, very, very cautious. We only ate at the hotel that we were staying at. We only drank bottled water or safe drinks. I think if you're more adventurous and you choose to try street vendors, which I don't think is highly recommended for a foreigner, but that I would imagine would increase your risk of getting sick. But no, I never got sick when I was in India. How safe was it to travel to Pune? And a lot of people are wondering that, especially if they're ladies and they're traveling alone. I think, as always, you need to do your own research on that. For me, I felt very safe. There were times that we felt uncomfortable. It was a big, big, big culture shock. There would be times that we'd be walking and then wind up in, I think they call them slums. They're like simple tin housing, and it's like whole sections, so it's not like one little tin house or 2 or 3. It would be like a town. If I was out walking and I found that I'd wandered into a place called a slum, and I felt uncomfortable, then I could easily turn around. But mostly my discomfort wasn't like, oh no, someone's gonna rob me, oh no, someone's going to drag me off into a corner somewhere. It was just seeing that much poverty and being uncomfortable with seeing that, because it's not something I'm used to in Canada. Of course it exists in Canada, I know that, but in my opinion, it seems like we have poor section, middle class section, rich section. If you don't want to see those things, you don't really have to. And with that said, I'm a public librarian by trade, so I do see homeless people all the time. But we just kind of in certain areas like slums, we felt like we were in a spot that we didn't belong. And we were uncomfortable with children begging. We were uncomfortable with people coming up and kind of tugging on us because, if they wanted money, they might be like, oh, come over here and, can I have some money? And that's because in our culture in Canada, you don't really touch a stranger. So I never ever really felt unsafe. There were definitely times I felt uncomfortable. I think feeling uncomfortable is something that you just kind of have to deal with as a foreigner traveling somewhere just because things are different. But I think that with caution, I think you need caution wherever you go. Even if you were to visit my tiny little town in Canada that I live in, you should still exercise some caution. I think that Pune is a very safe city to travel to. I never felt threatened. I would recommend maybe you don't go out at night if you're traveling as a single person, especially a single lady. I'd recommend that you book cabs through reputable services like Uber or like OLA. I would recommend that you stay in a hotel. I would recommend that you choose a place where you have easy access to a local to help you with the language barrier and with the cultural barrier. And for me, that was a hotel. And I guess the biggest issues, I was talking about this with people in my Kshar Sutra thread, the biggest issues that people seem to worry about would be, of course, getting food sickness, but also loneliness was the major issue. So loneliness more so than feeling unsafe, because if you're a single traveler, the days can be very, very long and you can feel very isolated and very lonely. So with all of that said, would I recommend that a single person travel to Pune? Yes. Of course, use caution. But yes, would I have traveled to Pune as a single person? I'm not quite sure, just because I knew that I would be very lonely. But when I went there, I didn't know what to expect. Having been there, would I go back and travel as a single person? Yeah, I totally would. But I would personally prefer to bring somebody for the loneliness. Other than cabs or hotel stay or food, what other things should I consider? Is another question I get asked. One thing that I forgot or I didn't really consider all that much before we went was laundry. If you are staying in a hotel and you use their laundry service, it can get very, very expensive very, very quick. We chose to take our laundry to a place called U Clean, which was like basically a 3-minute walk from our hotel. So that is definitely something to consider. The SIM card for India, data package for India, and laundry. As far as being in India, what should you consider? I did not need an enema while before or during treatments. I didn't need antibiotics, bed rest, IV medication, general anesthesia, hospital stay. None of that was necessary during treatments. Basically, you go into his clinic, he freezes the area with spray, and then if necessary, he will give a needle in the area, a freezing needle, so it's a local anesthetic, and that's it. After treatment, you can get up and walk right away. He takes you to his office and speaks with you about whatever he saw, and that's pretty much that. There's really no need of bed rest or anything. I guess the main prescription, other than to adhere to the dietary restrictions, is to walk. And I would recommend that people listen to everything that he's got to say, but especially that, because when you walk, it helps release the medicine from the Kshar Sutra thread into the area, and it helps the threads cut through. Did I need stool softeners while I was undergoing treatment? No, I did not. Dr. Bapat recommends that you change your diet. So no Coca-Cola, which was fine with me. We're not big pop drinkers anyway. No meat, no cheese, no spicy food. Those were the 4 big ones that I can remember. And I don't feel like I needed stool softeners because when I wasn't eating meat, my bowel habits changed in that stool was just a lot. It's not that stool wasn't easy to pass before, but eating a vegetarian diet made sure that the stools were soft. And Dr. Baba believes in a holistic treatment method, so I think he would rather avoid drugs if they're not necessary, if he doesn't think they're necessary. So there was no need of a stool softener, because since I was on a vegetarian diet, my stools were soft enough to pass through the area anyway without really any issues. One person wanted to know if I needed wound packing, and I did not need a wound, to kind of, while I was going through treatment, to go back and forth to a hospital or to a nurse to have any wound packed, because there really was no wound to pack. Some doctors will cut the fistula if they feel it's necessary and then insert the Kshar Sutra thread. Some doctors don't believe in cutting. Dr. Bapat does not believe in cutting. He doesn't think it's necessary, so there was no cut or no wound to pack. At the end of treatment, when the thread had been removed, then he did recommend that I take cotton ball and soak that in iodine and pack that up into the wound externally. And I would do that and then take another strip of cotton and just put that over the area so my underwear wasn't getting stained with iodine. What were my dietary restrictions? That would be, when I was getting Kshar Sutra treatment, no meat, no cheese, no spicy food, and no Coca-Cola. And I would certainly, those were my dietary restrictions from my doctor. Maybe somebody else's doctor would have something else to say, but I remember that I ordered soup, and it didn't say anything on the menu about it being spicy, so I ordered it, I get it, it's spicy. By then, at that point, we just started our journey, and I thought, well, I don't want to return this soup because it's going to go in the garbage. That's such a waste. Let me just eat as much of it as I can, which is foolish. A chili flake wound up coming out of my fistula, and it hurt a lot. And after that point, I was very firm about absolutely no spice. So for anybody, if you either choose some dietary restrictions to make sure your stool is soft as you're undergoing Kshar Sutra treatment, or if you go with the same doctor and he's giving you those instructions, I would recommend that you say straight up front to anybody who's preparing your food, if it's a restaurant, if it's somebody in a hotel, whoever it is, you should try to remember to ask them no spice, because the cuisine in Canada can be quite bland as far as what we consider to be spicy or not. So what we think of as spicy and what they consider spicy in India can be two completely different things. I found often that I would say no spice, and to my palate it would still taste a little bit spicy, but it was fine. So if you say less spice, it's still probably going to be spicy in some areas. If you don't say anything at all, they put spice and chili in a lot of food, so no spice. People want to know, have I spoken to anybody who's had Kshar Sutra and has been healed up and it's been years? Yes. Before I chose to go to Pune, before I chose to go with Dr. Bapat, I wanted to talk to people who'd been through the journey, and of course I wanted to talk to people who had been healed up for years, because everybody, I think, who's a fistula fighter is just petrified of the fact of this thing coming back. So I talked to a bunch of people, and I think they'd had their fistulas cured for 2-3 years. And I know that he's had clients from before, long before, that I didn't get a chance to talk to, who'd had their fistulas healed for 5, 6, 7 years. So yes, I did talk to people who had their fistulas cured for years, no recurrence and no issues. Currently, I'm still in the healing process, and other than the wound healing, I'm not experiencing any issues at all. One thing I hadn't considered when I was going to Pune is to take an extra toothbrush or something to clean the bottoms of my shoes in case I had stepped in some feces on the sidewalk or by the side of the road, and in my opinion, there was a lot of it. Dog poop, goat poop, whatever it was. When we first got there, I saw a goat, and I was just so fascinated. I was like, oh my god, a goat! And of course, I stepped right in that goat poop, and it got in every little crevice of my shoe. So thankfully we had an extra toothbrush, and I could, use my current toothbrush as now the poop toothbrush, and the new toothbrush is my toothbrush. But you might want to consider taking one of those.